Hey guys, this is Sensei Gaidash, and today we are going to be going over a review of a video of katas I've put together, and I want to tear them apart with you guys. So I hope you enjoy. Alright guys, so right now I'm just going to do a breakdown of the video. Right now we're starting off, and let's just go ahead and look at the form. I want you guys to really pay attention to where I'm loading up the hand for each time I turn. So you can see before I make my turns, I'm bringing the hand really close to my ear on each one of the low blocks I'm making. And I want you to also really pay attention to the stances. So it's really important to bend the knee. It's really, really important that you guys have the feet facing the same direction. There's a lot of stuff going on in these, and I just wanted to point that out to you guys. So there's a lot of movement going on, a lot of these things in these katas. So I'm doing 3 of them. The first one you see when I'm doing all of it is Taikyo Shodan, and then I immediately move towards Heidan Sho. So, you know, Taikyo Shodan, it's a really basic form. It's mainly for people who are just starting off, just getting an idea of the patterns. It's really fun to practice. I practice that probably the most. And one of the challenges I have for people who get really bored of it is to do it backwards. It's not until you get to here that we're in Heidan Sho that you really start to see new techniques like the shudos, so we have our knife hands. You really get to see more types of blocks and more types of movement. Now we're moving into Nidan. I'm going to be breaking down each one of these videos, so I'm just really quick running through it again. And you could kind of just see more and more techniques come into the katas as you start to go into a higher rank forms. So before it was just blocks and punches. And then you start to really walk away from that when you start going towards the higher forms. Once you get towards, that was Heidan Nidan, you really start to see more things really open up. So now I'm going to do Teki. So this is a purple belt form, and you can kind of see the evolution of everything that happens here. Really swinging that foot. And you can even see where the feet come up, I'm doing my cross crawls. Yeah, be very quick on the hand movements, and there's a lot of hand movements. Okay, so let's go to the very beginning of the videos, and I wanted to start really digesting some of these movements. And so right about here, you could kind of see, I want you to really pay attention. I should be pulling my foot close to that back foot. Let me see if I do it. I do. Every time you're transitioning from one of the sides, going to the front, going to the back, don't just throw the foot. Don't just throw it out there. Pull it back to the center. And what it really does is it really helps you move faster. Some would argue, well, if I could just take my foot and go straight over, that's not how it works. It's kind of like if you've ever been on anything that spins, if your arms are really far out, you're not going to move as fast as if your arms are pulled in. You're going to turn a lot faster. There's a lot of science going on there. But anyway, that's where I'm going to be a little bit picky and make sure you guys are getting that. So we have our 4 punches coming forward. So again, even though I'm turning, I'm facing the front and I'm going off to the side, I still pull that foot in, and it really helps make the turn faster. So again, that first kata is Taikyo Shodan, and there's really not a lot going on. There's not a lot of different stances. There's just not a lot of techniques going on. There's a lot of blocking and punching. That's really all you're going to get there. And it's not until you start getting into higher rank forms that you start seeing more hand movements, more foot stances. So this next form is into our Heidans. So Heidan means advanced. So Taikyo means basic, first form. So we're walking away from a basic and we're going into advanced. Let's see how that transition goes. Block punch. And immediately the form changes. So you have new blocks. Now we have back stances, we have inside blocks. The punches going to the back are different. So these are aimed right for your own nose. Whenever you're doing katas, you're fighting yourself. It's self-perfection. And then we have our shudos here. So you can see just from our first kata you learn going into your orange belt to your first kata going in towards like a blue or yellow bluish, depending on what I'm really feeling there. If your technique's like picture perfect, I could start talking about a blue. Just memorizing it's not enough. That's only a yellow to me. So let's take the next steps and let's go look at Heidan Nidan. So that's the second advanced form. So immediately we're walking away from just a down block punch and into a 3-part form. That kick is 2 kicks. You're kicking to the side and you're bringing that foot down as fast as you can. So you can already see we have shudos going on. So that's a punch inside block kick. And you do that for 3 times. All right, so let's take more pieces out of that kata. Things you're gonna already notice. We're not doing simple blocks and punches no more. We're walking completely away from that. Empty hand forms, which means shudos, become a lot more important. We alter the stances constantly. So in this one, when you're going up and back, it's front stances. But when you go side to sides, you're primarily in a back stance. So that's the very first thing. There's a lot more advanced techniques, and you can kind of see it. Now, I'm going to be probably doing another one of these once we touch on more of the katas, and I want you to see from like the very first Taikyo kata to like the last Heidan, because there's 5. So I want you to see how the blocks, the stances, and everything changes in an advancement. So once you leave the Heidans, you start walking into like a Teki, you walk into Chuggy, you walk into Naihanchi. So I know all 3. I love all 3. But one of the ones you're going to practice when you start walking towards the purple belt is going to be Chuggy Sho. So let's go ahead and look at it. Hands come up, guard, big foot swing, big foot swing. And you can see where cross crawls are happening in the video. So I'm really bringing that foot up. Okay, so let's stop right there. So this kata is done sideways. So no forward and back stances, I should say, no front stances. There's 3 different forms that are very similar that I said earlier. So you have Teki, Naihanchi, and Chuggy, and each one has a very different background. They're done sideways. All 3 of them are done sideways, but it's the foots that change. It's the strikes that change. I might do a video in the future of Teki or Teki Sho. I might do another video with Chuggy and clean up Chuggy a little bit because there's some things wrong here. I might do another video of Naihanchi Sho, and I'll show you all 3, and I'll show you the differences. So if you're practicing different martial arts, whether you're practicing a Japanese form, if you're practicing an Okinawan form, if you're practicing a Korean form, you're going to go down a road of different katas. I know Basai Sho, I know Basek Sho, or Basek Sho. It changes, it really does. So each one of these you could kind of take away from is stances rapidly change. They're not so much stuck in a front stance. It's not going to be a very basic pattern in the future of, oh, I do a low block, I do a punch. I do a low block, I do a punch. I do a high block and I punch. We walk completely away from that once you get into the head-ons, because now you start getting into, I'm going to do a little bit of a recap and go all the way back to head-on Sho. So let me see where we are. So that's the end of Taikyo, and we're going to start head-on Sho. So right there. So what you have right there is, now you have your first ever Ketsuke, cat stance, Nikko Akidashi. So that is a new stance. We don't really get to cover it a lot, but I want you to pay attention what happens with the foot that is up in the air. I want you to pay attention of how I get my body to lunge forward. So if there's something that you really, if you're going into a tournament, you're going to be judged on a kata, and you want this kata to look good, this is a really good point that I want you to take away from. That foot stomps down, and I just kind of like go right with the motion. So you can't stop, it can't be static, you can't put the foot down and then step. It has to be immediately, as soon as the foot comes down, you take that step, and you really want to shift that weight as far forward as you can. So I'm thinking about my hips, I'm thinking about my upper body. So if you ever want to clean up that form, I probably practiced that when I was trying to get that to look really good 50 times, 50, 75 times. And it was just over and over again of just trying to make it look good. Good, clean, fast, and not so choppy. So that's all we really have for you today. I wanted you to see me demonstrating these forms in a very basic standard form and how they advance into the head-ons. Now what my goal is in the future is to start comparing more, so you could see from a beginning to an ending perspective of like how the katas change. And if I could get through the whole kata as one, I'll show you a black belt form. In fact, the last black belt form for our system. So I will be probably talking to another sensei, or I should say a Shion, and seeing if I can get some forms done with him, so you can even compare me with how early am I as a black belt and how someone who's done it for roughly about 35 to 40 years, and how the forms change, and how if you really practice them, you could really remove a lot of stiffness and change the way the form looks entirely. So I'm Sensei Gainash, and that was our review video. See you guys tomorrow. Sensei Gainash here, and I wanted to talk to you guys about redoing breathing techniques and using yoga stances as a possibility for a cool down. A cool down is where your body gets very, very heated to the point of sweating, you're having a hard time breathing, and you just need a chance to calm your body down. So I wanted to introduce you to yoga. So we're going to go over a few things that I posted up on the classroom. It's in the classwork section of your yoga and stretching, and I want you to take a look at some of them, and we're going to do a few of them together. So we're going to go step by step of breathing, how to breathe, and when to use it. So let's start with when do you use it. Whenever you start to realize that you're having a hard time catching your breath, this is a good chance for you to take a moment and realize, am I breathing correctly? How to breathe correctly. In through the nose, out through the mouth. If you're breathing in and out through the mouth, it's going to cause what we call hyperventilation. It's going to cause your heart rate to start increasing, and it's not catching enough breath the correct way. So you want to start, if you realize you're becoming frustrated, angry, or start doing hard breathes. And hold. 1, 2, 3. Usually, you could start with something like that. If you realize that you're very upset, you can start using other techniques, such as counting while holding your breath. Some people can count to 10, some people can count to 20. You know, set your limits, know your limits. So if I take a deep breath in and I start counting in my head, I counted 20 in my head. That was just a really good round number for me. And I can exhale. So the idea of something like that is to breathe in and to not exhale until you've gotten to a nice, comfortable number. It could be 10, it could be 15, it could be 20. It's not supposed to be something that you are out of breath and you let go, but so much as something that you know you had to hold for that moment. So let's start getting into using breathing for martial arts and yoga. Yoga is an excellent way to start stretching, and yoga translates to yoke. So let's start looking at some of the exercises. I've been holding a stance right now, and this is my seiza position. So if I ever say, you know, take a formal seated position, this is what I'm talking about in martial arts. I'm going to give you a side representation of what my toes are doing. My big toes touch, and I sit. My hands are on my knees, and you can either have your knees together or apart. Preference is purely yours. Mine is apart. So we're bringing it into about shoulder width apart right now. So that means if we were to draw an imaginary line with my shoulders straight down, my knees aren't out here and they're not together. They're about comfortable. Let's start getting into some of our stretches. So I'm going to take my hands and I'm going to slide down my hand or knees, sliding forward. And I just want to keep pulling my body forward till my face is perfectly straight. So I'm not tucking my neck in. I want it nice and open for breathing. And I want to lower my ears below the elbows. So I'm going to count. Let's go for a good round number of 8. Each, ni, san, shi, go, roku, seiji, hachi. From here, I'm going to pull the hands back, and I want to really tuck back. I'm going to press my back up as much as I can, and I'm going to put my head forward, and I'm going to really bring that back up. So here's my cat, and let's go for that nice round number again. Let's go for 6. Each, ni, san, shi, go, roku. And I'm going to drop my belly as far as I can. I want to think about dropping my belly to the ground. And I don't tuck my chin down, but then I can't breathe. So I bring my head just to the point my neck has plenty of breathing room, and I really want to concentrate on pushing my belly to the ground. Each, ni, san, shi, go, roku. From here, I'm going to relax, and I'm going to let my hands fall forward, and I just want to do this one last time. So let's go for a nice round number of 10. Each, ni, san, shi, go, roku, seiji, hachi, ko, do. And you can tell by how loud I'm counting that I'm not tucking my chin in. I'm not tucking my chin in. Be very conscious of that. Be very aware. If you're experiencing difficulty breathing, lift your chin. So now I'm going to press forward. My hands don't move. My hands are glued to the ground. And I'm going to push forward. And I want to lock them up and look directly into the ceiling. So I'm going to count. And let's go for a nice round number of 12. Each, ni, san, shi, go, roku,
Seiji, Hachi, Ko, Ju, Juich, Juni. And from here, I could come up, and I'm in a nice fixed position. From here, I could bring my toes up. So I just have my big toes up right now. My big toes are touching the ground, and my hands are still glued to the ground, and the idea is to make my foot fly flat without moving my hands. So my hands are here, and I push, and I want to try and push my feet directly down on the ground, and mine are about 75% of the way there, in that range. And I want to count. Let's go for a nice round number 14. Each, ni, san, shi, go, ro, siji, hachi, ku, ju, juich, juni, jusan, jushi. And from here, I'm going to walk my hands up. And letting my body relax. And let's go for that nice round number 16. Each, ni, san, shi, go, roku, siji, hachi, ku, ju, juich, juni, jusan, jushi, juho, juro. Good. Now, let's sit back down. And let's talk about something that you definitely should have at home. So, if you remember, not too long ago, we got these wonderful jump ropes. If you don't have a jump rope and you have a rope, if you have a belt, if you have a martial arts belt like moi, me, all I ask is something of the nature, something very flexible, so it moves very freely, and I don't want it to be any kind of metal, and I don't want it to be anything that can hurt me. So what I'm going to do is, you can use jump ropes, I'm going to use my martial arts belt. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to find where my belt's in half, and I'm going to wrap it over my foot. From here, I'm going to find where I'm comfortable, just to the point my back is straight, and there's just tension up to the point that my toes have to be pointed up. From here, my hands get a little bit of slack. That means I move my hands down, and I'm going to wrap them and grab, and I want to pull that foot up off the ground. So, I want to keep my back straight, and I want to pull that foot in. And from here, I can lay back, try and keep this foot on the ground, and let's go for a nice round number. I'll start at 2 for now, but we're going to be doing 1. Each knee. So from here, I might relax my foot and give it to one hand. So from here, I just have that foot, and I want to pull it as high as I can. Each, ni, san, shi. So I just counted the 4, and I can even alternate hands to bring this foot to opposite sides. Now what's really important is this hand that I have here, it lays perfectly down to the point my shoulders are laying down on the ground, and at least my big toe is touching the ground, at least. If you can do more, bring your foot up. Each, ni, san, shi, go, roku, siji, hachi. I doubled it that time, so I'm at 8. So, I want to end on some really good ones. You can always switch for either one of these, but let's jump into some of my favorites, some of the ones that always create a good stretch. So I'm going to talk about cradle and bridge. So, let's put this martial arts belt. You always want to take care of your belts. It's very important. If I find a belt and you didn't take care of it, it becomes mine. And I love collections. So, we're going to end on cradle and bridge. So, let's start with bridge. We're going to lay with my knees are up, and I grab my knees, and I'm going to lay back and that is you want to point your belly to the ceiling.
And this is bridge. Ich, ni, san, shi, go, roku, sichi, hachi, ku, ju, juich, juni, jusan, jushi, jugo, juroku.
Good. Okay, so if you're in this position, so if I'm going to lay completely flat, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my hands on my belly, and I'm going to bring one foot to the point of crisscross applesauce. A very fast way to get to this position, if I'm sitting up, crisscross your legs, and just lay back. And this is called fish. So, let's jump into the last one for today. You bring your knees up, and we're going to flip over to our bellies. So I'm going to turn to my side. And from here, I swing my body over, I swing over, and the next part is catching my foot behind my back. So what that's going to look like is it's going to be a very quick and fast action, and it's going to look like this. So once I've caught my foot, I'm going to stretch as much as I can so nothing but my belly is touching the ground. I'm Sensei Gash, and that was a little bit of yoga and breathing.